like the earthquake-ravaged island of Haiti. After the worst disaster of modern times, I was expecting to find a nation consumed only by grief and despair. But instead, I've returned with a story of love, survival, and all the best things about humanity. And it's a proud Australian story about Steve and Debbie Rasmussen, a remarkable couple from Ballarat. They adopted 3 children from Haiti, Rebecca, Tim and Jonas, then watched them grow into fine young Australians with accents as broad as a nullarbor. But the bonds with Haiti always held fast. When the earthquake struck, the Rasmussens had to act. So began an emotional journey to help the relief operation and a search for someone very special indeed. In the Caribbean, little more than 2 hours from Miami, is the poorest and most dysfunctional nation in all the Americas, the Republic of Haiti. That such a place should be afflicted by a devastating earthquake and the greatest humanitarian crisis of modern times, well, the phrase cruelly unfair doesn't begin to qualify it. Our hearts go out, and into this apocalypse comes a most unusual Australian family from Ballarat.
It's unbelievable. 3 out of 4 buildings is just rubble. Look at that. It virtually looks upside down.
Australia, people would never recover. Some people would never recover or change their lives. Here, different story. They see devastation all the time. This is just another big chapter of the story of Haiti.
Yeah.
Jonas, Timothy and Rebecca are the adopted Haitian kids of Australian parents, Steve and Debbie Rasmussen. They're here to help, but this is also an intense personal journey for this unique family. Why do you two care so much when, until now, the rest of the world hasn't?
I think the bond, of course, has been through adopting our children, and that's put our focus on Haiti. Before we adopted our children, we didn't know anything about Haiti. But once you've been here and once you see that need, you can't turn away and do anything, or we certainly couldn't. Other people may be able to, but we couldn't. We couldn't walk away with our children and not put back into the country.
Jonas?
Yep.
Want to go long ways?
Okay.
Erecting a makeshift shelter for a homeless family alongside a filthy, fetid drain isn't exactly an idealist notion of saving the world. But this is Haiti.
It's disgusting, but I am fortunate enough that I can go home and wash my hands. Right now, I just want to get as much of this up as we can. I feel like I'm actually doing something.
At 4:30 on Tuesday, the 12th of January, Haitian life changed utterly. Just like the ancient devastation of Pompeii, there are frozen visions everywhere of a life that has vanished into rubble. The current count is 300,000 buildings. But Haitians are well schooled in misery and struggle, so it has to be business as usual for the barber of Rubble Row.
And look at this. This is extraordinary. In the wreckage and the rubble, the barber has started again.
Yeah.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour,
So-
monsieur.
You wouldn't think you'd worry about appearance, would you?
No.
When everything else is laid waste.
Well, you know, life must go on, Charlie, you know. It has to go on. These people have to make an income to support their families.
And there are no handouts in this society. It's every man for himself.
Absolutely. Nothing for free here. Absolutely nothing. No social security, no infrastructure, you know, nothing.
Confronted by such mass human suffering, it's easy to be shocked into despair and inaction. But not for the Rasmussens. They're guided by the simple practicality of doing one small thing at a time.
Yeah, right over the top.
Of course, while we're doing this, There's a woman across there that doesn't even have a blanket
Yeah.
to cover the kid with.
And
It's just,
I
it
was
goes
trying
on
not-
and on. The more you do, the more you need to do.
It's pretty heavy at the moment, especially when you see what kind of difference just putting a tarp on is going to have on these people, you know?
Okay. Cover the children. It's 10. See?
That'll be a shelter.
25 years, the Rasmussens have been raising money and support for the people of Haiti.
There's over $4,000 there, American, for you and your mission.
Their commitment started when, even though they had their own natural children, they decided to adopt Haitian kids in desperate need. The first was Rebecca, abandoned by her mother immediately after birth and left to die. When Steve and Debbie first saw her, she was given no chance of survival.
There was an instant attachment in our hearts, and we couldn't explain that, but we had Rebecca in hospital dying, and people saying, "Oh look, go and get another one." Well, that was like saying, throw your child away. You know, you cannot do it. You know, within a short time, the bond was great. You know, and excuse me.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, you're very emotional about this.
Well, being in this country, it was 25 years ago, but the emotion is still there.
To improve the odds in Rebecca's favour, Deb took hormones so she could breastfeed. Back in Ballarat, she nursed for 9 months.
A white woman nursing a black baby.
Yeah, that created even more interest, Charles.
You artificially induce lactation. You'd do anything for that girl.
I would.
I'm a fighter. I fought from 6 days old. Brain fluids coming out of my ears, eyes, nose, 16 dirty nappies a day. Not supposed to survive. Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
You know, like you
She's a
can't.
fighter.
We are survivors. We are survivors. We're warriors.
One adoption led to another. Next came 14-month-old Tim, who was critically ill from malnutrition. And then his brother Jonas joined the Rasmussen clan. The boy's mother gave them up, hoping they'd find a better life elsewhere. And that's what they got as part of a large blended family. 9 kids growing up in Ballarat in regional Victoria.
They treated us like we weren't different, you know? At home we weren't different. With our older brother Ben, Emily, Jessie, Rebecca, we weren't different. So we're in a very black and white family, you know? So
Sometimes you could look down at yourself and forget.
yeah.
You forget that or someone will call you something.
Yeah.
You know, and
Or
you're
we-
like.
I figured
I forgot. I even forgot I was black. You know,
Yeah.
you don't think about
You
it.
do.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not a constant. You
definitely.
know, you're more beautiful
You
than
do.
the rest of
Definitely.
them.
There actually were times we sort of,
Much better
You
colour.
don't think about it.
we've got a better tan, you know?
And there's nothing that I want to praise God. I'm just gonna sing it out so you know how I feel.
Rebecca is now making a career as a singer in Melbourne. Jonas, with the help of younger brother Tim, runs a roofing business in Queensland. They are glowing endorsements of the benefits of giving desperate children a second chance at life. Today in Haiti, there are now more than 500,000 orphans.
This is heartbreaking. You can understand the impulse of anyone who sees this to want to save kids like little Amberly. She's about 2.5, we think. We know that she's an orphan. We know that when she gets better, to commit her to the hell just outside the walls of this hospital compound is almost unthinkable. It really is very tempting to grab a kid like this and take it back to Australia and give it a life.
Poor little bloke.
I just want to see some life in those eyes, and this is the situation that Timothy was in, Charles, exactly the same as this. When we first took him to the doctors, they he told us that he couldn't guarantee that he would even survive.
The orphan situation in Haiti is nothing new. It's always been a problem here, even before the earthquake. There's always been a possibility of, well, not a possibility, it's a fact. There's thousands of orphans, children that have already been orphaned and have lost their parents just through disease, just through, common flus and malnutrition.
It's that life of deprivation and hardship the Rasmussen kids escaped through their adoption. Jonas was 6 at the time and can still recall the trauma of his Haitian childhood, the bloody memories of a nation being torn apart by political upheaval.
Jonas can remember hiding under a bed when the secret police were coming through. He saw people with their tongues cut out because they spoke against the government of the time. He saw people beheaded with their heads paraded on poles. A lot of traumatic stuff that no child should ever have to see.
Are you still haunted by the memories of the old regime?
Absolutely. I did see a lot of things that did disturb me a lot.
So it's
I find it very hard.
Sorry, I don't want to make it difficult to, but it does illustrate
Yeah.
the difficulty.
I think it's just, I get very emotional when I think about my mum, for instance, my birth mother. It's just something I can't help.
It's been more than 20 years since Jonas and Tim's Haitian birth mother made the heartbreaking decision to give up her boys.
To tell you the truth, the closer I get to see her, the sicker I'm starting to feel in my stomach a little, so it's...
Been waiting a long time, so...
They've only met her once since the adoption, and after the earthquake have been anxious to see her again. Today, they've come to a mountain village where many fled to escape the disaster. They see their mother, Mary Lucy, the years melt away.
Oh, it feels so good now. It was just such a hard wait.
It's great. It's good. It's fantastic.
I know, I couldn't wait any longer. Yeah, I'm so glad.
Just let it out, mate.
Yeah, I know.
You look very beautiful. Yes, yes. And we have same smile. Yeah. And same ears.
Are there divided feelings when the boys are with their birth mother?
Yes, there are divided feelings, yes, but it's I'm so happy for them. They've come the complete circle, and I'm really happy that they're back with their mum, and that's all as an adoptive parent that you could ask for, that we can all be together.
You love these kids to pieces.
Absolutely.
And to see those tears of joy,
Yep.
it must be a great joy to you.
I love their mum too. You've done a wonderful thing, a wonderful thing. She's given you the very best that she possibly could, and I'm so thankful to her for that.
Couldn't have done it without the support crew there, you know that.
Yeah. Well, we're in it together, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah.
In it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole world will need to be in it together to fix Haiti. It'll take 10 years to build a viable state here. And while the big nations and the big aid agencies do the heavy lifting, the Rasmussens believe that every little effort also helps.
Say merci, Australia.
Merci, Australia.
Good girl.
During their 5 days in Haiti, the family handed over lots of toys and helped erect makeshift shelters wherever they could. But perhaps their greatest contribution was organising sponsorship for 50 Haitian children, a gift they know from personal experience can make all the difference.
You must feel very close to these kids.
Definitely. These kids are me, you know? They're me without the chance that I had. So I feel very close to them, yeah.
What's the best we can do for Haiti's children? Sponsor them into the Spartan comforts of a third world life? Or risk the trauma of relocation and offer them the limitless opportunities of the West? That's the dilemma. That's the big question. And who better to answer it than this man?
Any support's a good thing, but I think we don't want to take too many of them away and lose who we are as Haitians either, you know. I could never say it's a bad thing, because for us to be able to get taken away and come back and be able to help out is an honour, you know.
Yeah, you couldn't guarantee in every case you'd have this happy reunification.
I honestly think that is one in a million.